I am so excited, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, not yet. We don't start by clapping. We start by buzzing around, okay? Yes.
Today, we're a fly on the wall in the life of...
I already told you he's an multi-award-winning entrepreneur. He's a father, he's a husband, he's my brother, and I'm super proud. He's here. His name is George Munengwa. Humba Makombe. George Billionaire. Titambirega naye Makombe.
Kuti muruwadi
Ngewadi rapwe.
upero wangu tambao.
Ngewa mai.
Upero tambao. Hala.
How far are you from the first billion?
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.
True.
And where I came from and where I am has been an amazing journey. And I'm not what I used to be. The journey to 1 billion, it's a lot of zeros. It's 9 zeros. Yeah. And the most important thing that I've understood with life is ambition is everything. And the moment you have ambition, I could have wanted to say thousandaire or millionaire. But I decided to be...
Just blow it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, why shoot close when you can shoot far?
I know,
because
right?
when people reach a destination, they get comfortable. So I liked this challenge. I've always been a person who likes to be challenged. And 1 billion seemed a challenge. And with all the billionaires I've studied, it took them 10, 20, some 30 years. And I've been, going good on my journey. And very soon, Tete umbamcha vero fadzwa kuti aiwa samcha wekwedu uyu umba wazosvika kuya kwaigara achitaura shuwa.
We are already super proud of you, George. I just find your story incredible and fascinating, and your energy is just infectious. But a lot of people struggle. I remember earlier, my first stint here was doing the mid-morning weekly show.
Yeah.
And when we started having motivational speakers, positively charged people coming to talk, oh my God, you won't believe the amount of resistance we faced. Like people just were not used to hearing a Zimbabwean who can walk in such positivity. What has been your experience like?
I always believe that motivation is like bathing, right? You need it every single day.
Absolutely.
And you can never, today I'm coming from church. There's so many sermons out there, but most of the time, like the word of God says, and the faith comes by hearing. So the more you hear how other people made it, accomplished things, overcame challenges, especially in hardship, it always gives you a little hope to say, wait a minute, if it happened to George, if it happened to Iyati, if it happened to Strive Masiwa, if it happened to Philip Mataranyika, clearly, surely, it should be possible if I just believe. So I say to people that motivation is one thing, but it's just not the only thing. Chinu chakakosha after motivation is actually what you do with what you heard. And today we're going to be hearing a lot of things, but it could be just information, some wisdom, some knowledge.
Until you take action.
That's it. The key thing, it's taking action.
Yeah.
Because, when the word of God says God will bless the works of your hands, that means you got to be doing something. Yeah. But if you're just a hearer and not a doer, you're not going to get much ever accomplished, because you're going to be one who is always murmuring and complaining and seeking motivation day in, day out. But if you are not a doer, you will always be at that same place and you will never amount to much.
How did you become this person? What's your background?
Wow, so George grew up in Glenora. Shout out to Glenora Massive. I love my Glenora people. A lot of great entrepreneurs have come from Glenora. A lot of great...
South is just amazing.
It is. True. And Kajinji Kacho, you'll find a lot of successful people come from very bad, poor backgrounds. Not only Glenora. There are many high-density suburbs of so many entrepreneurs you see today making it. Because they came from poverty. So I grew up in Glenora. I'm the last born of a family of 4.
Okay.
I was privileged by my father and mother. Nicodemus Munengwa. Baba wangu ndo dada now. You know, I lost my mom in 2004, but I still have the privilege to have my dad, you know, who took all of us and my siblings to a private school across town, which was a huge privilege.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of my story.
You
because
know, sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
I'm too effervescent today. I've heard so many people sit in that chair and say, "Taitaura chirungu," and I sometimes think the audience now may not understand what this means.
Yeah.
Across the pond. How important that was.
Yeah.
Let's carry on.
You know, so I went to that, and that was the beginning of everything. So exposure. My father truly believed in exposure. Vana vakaenda to a place which is outside their normal surroundings. It will force them to level up. So I used to have friends of different color. Back then, I used to interact, play sport. I was very sporty. All the way up to O level. I failed my O levels. I actually failed my O levels.
You know,
after
I literally fell out of my chair when I got the bio. Like, what? George, O level? How?
Yeah, so George failed his O levels because George wanted to become a soccer player. So the thing that would make me tick back then, would get back home, play soccer with the boys. So when I went uptown, I was very skilled. And I used to like being announced at assembly. Our Form 3 student, George Munengwa, is now playing first team. He went to Dynamo's trials. He went to Modax. For me, that was ultimately what I wanted to become. So when I failed my O levels, unfortunately, I had to go and repeat in town at a college. My dad said no more sport. And you know, the amazing thing about my father and mother, they were not very, upset parents.
Okay.
I was offered a scholarship at Prince Edward to go and finish to repeat my O levels.
Okay.
But my father said, no, let my son go and repeat without any sporting, things to distract him.
Yeah.
I supplemented in town, which then ultimately exposed me to Zimex more and the hustle that, so, God has many ways of, causing a person to be who he is. So during that time, in town, I would get my school fees to go and pay at the college, but I would deliberately delay, paying those until they said, we'll call your parents. But at that time, I would be, hustling, and that's where I got exposed to Zimex more, my love for gadgets. And then, I went to Prince Edward, finished school, and that's about it with my education.
Let me stop you right there, because in that story, I'm hearing the street wise side of you come through, uchenda town, college, supplementer.
Yeah.
How are you raising your children now to give them that edge? I don't know. I don't want to rush and paint it a certain way. I want to hear it from you, from those experiences, and how you're raising your children now. How do the two compare?
So, growing up, I think my father was an exemplary leader. In terms of raising up a child. My father was not do what I say. He was more you see what I do? This is what you should ultimately do. So he was not a father who spoke. So I tended to would go to Mbare Msika, would see my father negotiating potatoes for $10. Then you'd get them for $7. Then you'd wonder, wait, to an ordinary person, they can actually just pay that amount. But he, he taught us the walk away technique. And then, you get a little $3 discount. So with children of today, I think, fatherly roles are very important. We're growing up in a society where there are not a lot of fathered children. There are not a lot of fathers spending time with their children. And because of the exposure I got from my dad, I deliberately make sure with the amazing G's, my 5 children, I take them to school every morning. I try and we do what's called the school run diaries.
Okay,
so we do that, and every morning it's exciting. It's father, son, daughter time where, that 20-30 minute drive to school, helps my kids mentally to become who they are. So you'll find with my kids very competitive, very sound. If you have to bring them on radio, but this has been years of grooming and fatherhood and also motherhood playing a role in making our children become who they are.
19 minutes before we get to 3 o'clock, I've got George, a billionaire, George Munengwa. He's a Wombama Kombe in whom I'm super proud. He is a multi-award winning entrepreneur. He's done super well. He's raising his kids well and taking those graceful steps to the billion and going along with us, the sisters, of course.
Of course.
Failing your O levels, what did that mean to you personally?
I think for me, if I look back now, I think it was one of the best things that ever happened. So even losing my mom, one thing I've understood and realized in life is that some of the things you call misfortunes is actually God redirecting you in a path He wants you to grow up, to level up. So I've learned my greatest lessons from my biggest failures.
Okay.
So failing my O levels, my first business, Kuglenora, I wanted to build a phone shop. It was demolished by Mramba Trina. Yet my father had advised me, George, don't do this. It's not, a legal structure.
Yeah.
And, so all of those failures helped me to become the person that I am. So when people face failure, there are things that you need to understand. For me, I abbreviate the term fail as first attempt in learning.
Okay.
So when I failed O level the first time, if you see me today, can you even tell that George repeated his O levels?
I was super
You
stunned
can't.
to hear it.
But what it did to me, it challenged me, it provoked me, it taught me that no, you need to go a different path. So failing separated me from my friends, which maybe if I had continued going to lower six and upper six with those friends, you probably wouldn't be talking to me today.
Absolutely.
Because maybe that surrounding of friends was going to make me not become this person that I am. Because what I learned from St. George's and then also the street and then Prince Edward has now molded me to be the person that I am today. Compared to some of my friends who went to university, I went to university. I never went. I never got privileged to go that way because, we couldn't afford it. But, life has an amazing way of teaching you. But Zonak is that when you look back like now and say, I lost my mom at 21, but that taught me to be independent because I loved my mom so much. So I had to become responsible. I now had to, begin to fend for myself and a lot of other things. So failure teaches, and it's taught me a lot of things. And if you're out there and you have failed, it's not the end of the world. There's a lesson. You will appreciate it many years down. To say that's the reason why that relationship, that bad deal, why I didn't graduate at that set time.
You walk and talk with so much confidence. It's almost scary. What are your fears? What do you fear the most? What's one of your fears that you wouldn't believe?
I don't have a fear, and I've said this many times. You do know I'm on Capi Talk and I speak on Hustle Hard with Becky K every Monday.
Yes.
And fear, abbreviated, is false evidence appearing real. So fear only resides in a person's mind. And the moment you have fear, then definitely faith cannot operate. So fear has held so many people back.
True.
There are people who have died with their fears. There are people who, like me, who, if they hear entrepreneurship, start your own business, they are very fearful of this. But I love this quote which says, behind the doors of your greatest fears lie your greatest treasures. So if you're somebody who's always full of fear, you will never achieve, attain, have much.
But what separates the fearful from the fearless? What is it? What is that one thing? Like the rest of us, the rest of the ground mentality, we live with our fears, we are comfortable there. What's that one defining thing? What the separating factor?
So the way fear comes to somebody is through your ears, through what you hear, or through what you see. So if you see a child when they are thrown in the air, they don't understand fear. But you, who has now been somebody who hears things and sees, you hear, Zimbabwe, it's a very bad economy. Business is not working there. Starting a business, it will not function. So because of that fear being instilled upon you by others, it's actually not a part of you because nobody is born with fear. It actually then stunts your growth and you never grow, which is why in my journey of entrepreneurship, I have been so privileged and blessed to have people who are fearless, especially in the business sector. And if ever you want to become an entrepreneur, you need to let go of some of these people you grew up with, some of these people who have low-level minded things. When you say, I want to be a billionaire, people will laugh at you. But yet they are not even 1,000 at all. But you need to hang around with other fearless people because they will only add value and push you to become a better person. So when you look at successful people, they don't have what is called fear. They don't. They are brave. Be ye courageous. For I, can do all things.
Advocate Brenda, I see you on the WhatsApp. She says, I'm loving this. Your stories are amazing. Baba P is listening in from Pretoria. Tatenda Maina is in Lubumbashi in the DRC, and he says, go, George. And we are all cheering him on. It's Fly on the Wall, George Billionaire, George Munengwa of Hustle Hard on Capitalk with Becky K. You may know him from that. You may know him from making the weather behave. Let's go back to personal life. At what age did you get married?
I got married at 27. And at that time, I just had twins. And I was earning $300 at that time. And things were not adding up. Combined, my salary and my wife was about $550. Our rent was $350, $400. Kids, Pampers, milk was not adding up. Things were not adding up. And what then pushed me really to become an entrepreneur was not being happy and content with where I was back in 2012. And I then decided to jump off. And, for me, I think the best decision I ever did was to jump off and become an entrepreneur. And for others, it differs because maybe you're comfortable where you are. But the last time I checked, in the comfort zone, there's nothing that ever grows. If you are comfortable earning whatever salary you're earning, you get very complacent. You stunt your own growth. And this is what I always try and tell. This is what I try and tell people, especially in this beautiful country called Zimbabwe, where when you drive out, when you drive to other neighborhoods, you see other people doing things. You see other people traveling. You see new cars on the road. Those are people who are fearless, who are willing to take opportunities. And if you look at those people, they don't just rely on a job. And I go on this many times. Because if you have a job, you are just over broke. Just over. But when you decide to start a little project at the back of your yard, a little business, once that thing, you get income, you start investing into your business. After 6 months of you being serious, you see it's nearly equaling your salary. What more if you gave it your all? It could become much more. So to people out there, you are only where you are because the word of God says, Hansi, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. According to your faith.
All right, Umba. Okay.
According to your faith, it shall be done unto you. So for George, George wants to be a billionaire, not for himself. George also wants to raise other people.
True.
I think the best thing that God ever did for me was to bless me to be able to now have an empire which I can speak to people. So that I can encourage people that, listen, if I did it, I know where I came from. I didn't come from a privilege. Andina, Kana University. Apana. But there's something about somebody who has sheer determination and resilience.
Okay.
We are the true kings of the jungle because we fear nothing.
Let's talk about Lisa.
Yeah.
How did you meet her?
Wow. So I met Lisa I was in lower six when I was still at Prince Edward. I saw this girl and everybody was scared to approach her because she was such a dominant, figure and people, were not able to approach. But being a Umba, fearless, I was like, no. Let me just go.
And share this. One day I was out with my partner and we met a guy I'd gone to primary school with. Fiona told I was like, who says that?
Wow. Yeah.
So I can just relate to that. Lisa Kisa, but what made you approach her?
But I mean, I liked what I saw, and she was coming from a very well-groomed family. And once I began to speak to her personality, God-fearing, good background. Whenever you want to marry a woman, look at the mother, look at the family. That will tell a lot about the ultimate woman you're going to have.
Okay.
So when I saw the family structure, I was like, wow. And I mean, there was good chemistry, and back then I was a nobody, and I was on a bicycle.
But how did you know that far back, lower six? You were still
it's
in your formative years yourself. Did you even know yourself that well?
No, I think in life there's some things that you can never explain when you look back. There's some friendships you can have where you make friends with somebody, and you just up until now friends. There's something that was just from the onset, something that just made us click, and a good 19 years on, we're still together. So it's been a while.
What's been your experience of marriage? I mean, I speak into an audience and a time era where relationships are struggling. Marriage, yesterday I was at pains the whole day arguing with my 3 divorced friends.
Yeah.
Whether marriage is worth it at all.
With life, it's about what you want to make it. And there's no perfect marriage. I'm yet to see one. There's no perfect human being. But the most important thing is marriage is 2 imperfect people who came together, who had a vision to raise children and enjoy life together.
What do you and Lisa fight about the most?
In marriage, you can fight about anything. You can fight about the food.
What do you two fight about?
I think we don't fight. It's not a fight.
Okay.
It's just, getting to know each other.
What's the recurring issue?
There's never a recurring issue. I think every time you'll find, I didn't know you like this food. Recently I was away and I got her something. I was like, how did you know I was going to choose that? Because I actually then, but that's because you're getting to know somebody. And maybe before you bought something or you got something that somebody didn't like.
What's your most annoying trait as a husband?
I think I'm somebody who is close to being a perfectionist. I don't like time wasting. I'm somebody who wants to, and being husbands out there, Sunday morning you want to go to church, these people are still putting that extra makeup, and so I'm very impatient when it comes to time. But I've learned to understand that no.
How have you
don't
raised
put and
5
just
children in
I
a
think
19-year-old marriage and counting?
For me, I really want to give thanks and praise to God. One thing about, I shouldn't be here. If I'm to tell you my story, we don't have a lot of time. But there's so many opportunities that I could have gone and been 6 feet under now. I was sick, involved in accidents. So I've gotten to appreciate the amazing gift called life. Because you don't know what tomorrow holds. And with the Munengwa family, we are one who, if you see us, if you follow us, always making memories. School run diaries. Many years, 100 years later, people will look at that and be like, wow, this is what this guy was trying to disseminate, not only to his kids, but even to the world, to inspire people to say, you know what, tomorrow is not yours or mine to boast about. So you need to enjoy life, because life is meant to be enjoyed. And, nothing better than having a spouse which supports you, a family which also supports your hustle, and they're there for you. That's, I think, the most important thing in life. People out there are secondary. The most important people that individuals out there where families should care about is your immediate family.
You speak about your father being a great parent, a great leader who modeled the values he was imparting to you. How would you rate your own fatherhood against that of your father?
I think I've learned from the best, and I call my dad the best because he sacrificed a lot. My father was ridiculed for still staying in Glenora and paying a lot of money to take us. He could have had, a better lifestyle. But I look at what he said, and he made me, my brother, and my sisters to make an oath to say, this that I've done for you, make sure you do even more for your children. Make sure you're actively involved with your children. And if you see all my siblings, the way we spend time with our kids, it's a true role model of what we saw our parents modeling out. So parenting is simple. It's what you see and what you ultimately then become. Most of us who are fathers and mothers, you either become a better parent or you become worse off because of the upbringing, the
Yes.
discipline you got,
Yeah.
or now because you were never supported at sports, you now need to make sure you make a deliberate choice to go and support your kids at school.
Takudzwa Mponda, you're tuned in from Gweru anze Umba vane kufungwa sedzangu tinozvitenda. Thank you Iyati and George, we have learned so many things, says Chicharito. Fantastic story. George Ons is listening in from the City of Kings. George Pro A, you inspire me, says Kevi Gwenyambira we Marimba. I'm inspired, says Baba P. Thank you very much. Danilo is in Mainway Meadows and he is loving it. Mark Chloe says Anzi, sorry, what did you say fear was, by the way?
Fear, false evidence appearing real.
False evidence.
And fail is the first attempt in learning. Yeah.
Awesome. We are just 3.5 minutes away from the news. I can't believe it. There's so much to learn from you. It's just nice to hear your story, the way you articulate yourself, and you talk about being actively involved in the journey of fatherhood. Who are you on the home front? What do you do at home? Do you cook? Do you do chores? What are you modeling? What do you show? You know, you spoke about your father taking you to Bari and, you know, those very practical, basic, everyday examples. What do you do in your
So I think I'm a very actively involved, supportive parent in my kids' lives. If you're to say I cook, I rarely cook at home because dad is always up and away and doing what he must do to make the weather behave. And my kids understand that dad is at work.
Yeah.
If I miss a game, which is probably something that's very rare, if you have 5 kids and they're playing sport, we split each other, me and Lisa, to go and watch the others. But I think my active involvement is being there. You know, I try and make individual time with my kids. They are all very talented sporting
How
wise.
difficult is that when you've got 5 kids, 5 different personalities? The twins, like, how do you separate one from the other?
I think it's about spending, deliberate time with each that has helped me to understand them. So I know this one
Where do you get the time?
and time is not much, eh? It could be we're going to the shops, I go with this one.
Okay.
We're going for a run, I go with this one. I play golf, I may go with this one. It's just about being deliberate. And if you're not deliberate with your kids, somebody else would raise your kids, or they'll start getting advice and influence from something else. So it's a thing that most entrepreneurs and people who become wealthy, they lose track with their kids, and they get a lot of money, but they lose their children. And once they become 15 plus, you cannot control that individual who you never spoke to, and now they become their own person. So as much money as you may want to make, also make sure you invest in deliberately having a relationship with your children and your spouse.
Mrs. Rodney says, I've grown so much since I started working with him every day. I learned something new. It's amazing. I know Mama Ho loves it. So inspiring. Thanks, Iyati, for bringing George to the show. As we close, George, what would we have ever known had it not been for Fly on the Wall about George Billionaire?
Wow. George Billionaire is not a self-made person. I think I want to salute all those amazing people who've supported me on my journey. With Pro Air, I've gotten so many mentors, so many friends who have supported me in the air conditioning sector, giving me advice, counsel, and wisdom. So George may be a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, but I've not done it alone. I owe so many people, salutes for all the mentorship, the guidance that they've given me, because I am not an island. I'm a person who lives in an ecosystem. And if it wasn't for all those people, and to you out there, you can't make it alone. You can't become a billionaire or super successful by yourself. You need an ecosystem of people who believe in your vision, who support you, and actually help you to become the person that you want to be.
Absolutely. And with that, let's go out and build that ecosystem this coming week. Do catch George tomorrow afternoon. It's at what time with Becky K?
12 to 1.
12 to 1 on Hustle Hard, yeah?
Yeah, Hustle Hard.
The name's Iyati. It's been awesome. Until next Sunday, 3